guys, it's your girl Kelly Moe coming to you today to talk about the price of grooming. When my mother was moved into her first assisted living facility because she's been living with severe dementia, she was still mobile, she could still articulate, she could still share with me how she was feeling. And, it was really important to make sure that since she is moving into a new living environment that was foreign to her, that she can still have a sense of home as well as still feel like she had a sense of herself, even though, she was losing her thoughts and her memory on how to do certain everyday things, like brushing her teeth or combing her hair properly. So it was really important for me to help work with the caregivers and the nursing aides at the facility to work with her to make sure that her grooming was kept in tow, because here she is, she's still be able to look at herself in the mirror and be very familiar with who she is and what she wants to look like. So my mom used to have really short hair, and my aunt and I had thought that it was really important to allow her hair to grow out so it would be easier to manage and take care of. Because, when you have short hair, you need to, get it cut every couple of weeks to, kind of maintain the style. So for her to grow her hair out, we were thinking it'll just be easier to maintain, because the longer it got, we could eventually braid it, put it into braids. So in doing this, we learned that because of the way my mom was reacting to certain surroundings and her depth perception, going to the hairdresser at the facility was kind of challenging, because she didn't understand how to, put her head back into the wash bowl. She didn't understand the cues when the hairdresser was asking her to do that. She was very rigid. She couldn't put her neck back, so it was difficult to actually have someone wash her hair, let alone if it came down to the point where if someone wanted to do a traditional roller set, for her to sit under the dryer for that length of time to get her hair dry was impossible, because she would want to get up and want to wander, or the noise of the hair dryer would irritate her and frustrate her, and the heat would frustrate her just because it would make her hot and sweaty, and she wouldn't be able to do anything to combat that. So it's amazing how, you want to have your loved ones still feel like they have a sense of self and have a sense of dignity when they're, walking around. And, what they always used to say, if your hair doesn't look good, you don't maybe look good, or you don't feel good about yourself. So it was amazing for me to see how daunting it was just to get her hair taken care of. And one of the great things with the facilities where my mom has been at least some of the caregivers have been interested in wanting to braid her hair, and it wasn't really hard to find someone that wanted to do that. So I was very lucky that happened, but I had to get my hairdresser to actually come into the physical facility to work with my mom, because my mom was familiar with her, as well as she just knew how to do my mom's hair well. But, you have to work with the facility to make sure they allow that to even happen. And I was fortunate that happened, but it got really challenging. I had to try and go out and find an apparatus to put around her neck to catch the water, because she would have to sit up straight, to get the hair washed. And it was a challenge. It was a challenge. So fortunately, she only had to get her hair washed, maybe once a week, if maybe we could let it go maybe a week and a half. I don't think we went 2 weeks without getting our hair washed, but it was a challenge. But once we could at least let it grow out and have it braided, that helped tremendously with at least making it look neat and proper. Because when it was growing out, actually I'm wearing the headband that I used to have her wear when she had it started growing out, and it was a bob, and our hairdresser would come and she would blow out my mom's hair, and even that was kind of challenging, because once again the noise really bothered her. So the grooming aspect of getting your hair done, especially for women, still a pretty big deal. Another thing is making sure that your nails are taken care of. When you're not really sure what you're doing with your space, especially if your nails are getting too long and you're reaching for things and you could be scratching people, you can be scratching yourself. It's very similar to an infant or a newborn. They're not really sure what they're doing with their hands. I mean, when people are going through dementia and Alzheimer's, a lot of, you're reverting back to childhood because you really don't know how to do a lot of things anymore. So making sure that the staff is taking care of their nails is really important. Some staff members don't keep up on it. So one thing that my aunt and I would always do is we would bring our own kits with us every time we came to visit. So we would have our self-care kit, and in that kit was a little bit of everything. So like one of the things I have, here, it's a little grooming kit for her nails. So, your tweezers, your little scissors, it's all in here, as well as I would have emery boards. So those would always come with me. Another thing, her teeth and her breath. It's hard to tell someone who doesn't understand how to hold silverware anymore, or a toothbrush, or even a hairbrush, how to, just go ahead and do what we take for granted on a daily basis. So making sure that you're working with them on how to brush their teeth could be a little time consuming, or, using their mouthwash or whatever. Eventually what we ended up having to do is the facility would provide these sticks, and this, it's a sponge at the top. So, you'd end up just having to put water on this, maybe a little bit of toothpaste, and actually put it in their mouth and be gentle and actually scrub their teeth that way and encourage them to, to spit out. I mean, if she swallowed, but at least something was being put on her teeth to help get them clean. Another thing that I bring with me is razors. Not only, the hair on your head is something that you want to take care of, but, older women, because of the lack of estrogen in their body, testosterone is kicking in, and the facial hair starts to reveal itself. Just yesterday, I was sitting there with my mom, and actually, it's interesting, I used one of these and just dipped it in some water and put it, on her skin, and used the good old, okay, can you see? Some good old shaving cream, put it on her chin, and, shaved her up, to keep it all tight and right, because, the little hairs are poking out everywhere. Another thing that I would make sure is for her toothbrush, at least back in the day when she could still brush her teeth fairly well, made sure that she had covers for her toothbrush. You can just pick those up from the store, because they're these, those pink bins, those nursing pan bins that are used to put all of their toiletries in, and you really have to keep up with that when you go visit, because the caregivers are dealing with a multitude of residents every day. I mean, depends on the facility you're in, but, you could have a range of 20 residents to, maybe 40 residents to a unit, who knows. But everyone has their stuff in a bin, and after a while, people just throw stuff in the bins. And then sometimes you go and you check it, and it's not clean. It's like there's oil and there's gunk at the bottom of it. And there have been times when, I would go in and the toothbrush with no cover on it was just thrown into this bin. And it's nasty. So, when we have our care plan meetings to go over, your loved one's care, I'd have to bring up, it's the bins are kind of nasty. Can you please make sure that your aides or whatever nurse was working with my mom would make sure that it was clean. It's all about, sanitation. I'd always make sure I carried an extra brush with me, and hair, bands, because, now we can braid it, make sure that her hair is secure. I also want to make sure that, she's moisturized. So I would make sure I have some kind of lip balm. Obviously, I'd bring lotion with me, and I always have tissues on, with me, because if she has allergies or if her nose is running, you want to make sure that, you're not walking around with snot coming down their nose and down their face. And their ears, oh my goodness. But make sure you have cotton swabs with you. It's amazing Sometimes you're wondering if they're even checking their ears and cleaning them out. I mean, there have been several occasions where the wax buildup is out of control, and the things that we take for granted on a daily basis, people with dementia and Alzheimer's can't do anymore. And not only, like I said, maintaining your own kit and bringing it with you, so you can take control of making sure that they're safe, like I said, with their nails, or just clean. I made sure in the early stages with my mom, who, like I said, she started losing the ability to know how to, hold a pen, use utensils, use a toothbrush. And so when it came down to time for her to eat, she would use her fingers a lot to eat with her hands, and then she started touching things or touching people. So her hands were kind of nasty. So I'd always make sure I'd have baby wipes or hand sanitizer with me. And they always have those in the unit anyway for yourself, because when you come, you should make sure that your hands are clean as well. Because not only are you interfacing with your loved one, but I interface with the other residents all the time. And they want to be touched, and they come and they hug you or whatever. So germs are being spread constantly. So it's all about sanitation, but it's also about dignity. It's also about making sure that their clothes are taken care of properly, they're laundered properly. There are services obviously there where, they will do the laundry for you. In the very beginning, I used to take the laundry home and do it myself, because they throw everyone's laundry in together. And, it's very important to make sure that, and you're told to do this, you should label everything, put your loved one's last name, their room number on every article of clothing they have, and even if it is in their room, needs to have their name on it. This actually is a Sharpie. It's a rub-a-dub Sharpie. It's good for clothes, and you can pick this up at your local convenience store. But everything else should have, a permanent marker as well. So, making sure that, not only her clothes are clean, but like I said, I would take mine home because my mom is tall, and I would like to air dry, like her pants especially, so they wouldn't shrink. And you have to keep up with the clothes, because the way the community is, residents are kind of wandering into each other's rooms all the time. They can be going into other people's closets, pulling out clothes. I mean, I'd go in to look at my mom's clothes, and without fail, other people's clothes were in her closet, because whether the CNA or the nurse or whoever, the aide that was doing laundry, may have come in and just hung up clothes in her closet, or another resident has pulled stuff out or put stuff in. So you never know where your clothes are. You want to make sure you got to keep up with it, as well as there were times I would come in. I remember there was one time I came in, and not only was my mother, I don't know if the person who dressed her was colorblind, but she was mismatched. Just nothing was matching. And, that catches you off guard in the very beginning. Because like you said, it's all about dignity. You don't want your loved one walking around looking like a clown. But you also want to make sure that they're comfortable. Because, if it's too hot in the unit, you want to make sure they don't have too many clothes, too many clothes on. If it's cold in the unit, you don't want to make sure that, they have on a short sleeve shirt and like short pants. It's just really staying on top of everybody to make sure that your loved one is clean, comfortable, and has a semblance of self and some humanity and some dignity. Now my mom is in a state where she's been in a wheelchair for almost the past 2 years. And it doesn't matter right now if her pants are too short, if she's not really matching that well. And actually, she pretty much matches pretty well now, because I made sure she has a uniform. Champion has, really good black yoga pants. I get them at Target. She has very simple tops. So, and she has layering options, so if she needs a cardigan or something on her. But normally, nursing facilities are a lot warmer inside, because, the older you get, the blood is thinner, the elderly they're colder. So really just making sure that, they still look like civilized and human. You know, I went in one time, and someone had attempted to try to braid my mother's hair. This was several years ago. And they had put her hair in 6 different braids in different directions. I mean, she actually it would have been cute if she was a 4-year-old child going to pre-kindergarten with different barrettes or something on the ends of these 6 different braids. But here she was, a 70 some odd year old woman with all these braids in all these different directions, and she looked kind of silly. It made for a very interesting discussion with the head nurse, because I wanted to make sure that my mom looked like an adult. Another thing we used to always have to bring before she moved into her Medicaid facility is, for facilities that you pay out of pocket, they charge you for everything. So we invested in, we went to, whether it was Costco or Sam's Club or whatever, but we would get pull-ups as well as baby wipes in bulk, because they said in order to keep them clean, you didn't want to just use toilet paper, they also used baby wipes. At that time anyway, it's time, for them to use pull-ups or, adult diapers. So, but they would charge you out the wazoo for everything. I mean, even if she cut herself and had to put Band-Aids or ointment on her cut, I would get a bill, and I would get the bill every month, and I would check for these additional charges, and I'm like, are you kidding me? You're charging me $1 or whatever for each bandage that you put on, an additional 50 cents for ointment. I was like, that's ridiculous. So they would also do the same thing with the pull-ups and the baby wipes. And I was like, oh my gosh, we're already paying an arm and a leg for her to, live here and have care, but you're going to charge me for this extra stuff too. So she's in a Medicaid facility now. She doesn't have to do that anymore. I don't have to lug around boxes of baby wipes and pull-ups in my trunk anymore. And actually, one time it was really funny. I had a box of baby wipes that were in my trunk, and it was in the winter. And I had gone out to the car to get some out to take in with me to Mom's room, and it was frozen solid. And I was like, duh. I was like, yeah, I don't think this is going to work anymore. That wasn't really smart on my part. But that's the thing. I always made sure I had stuff in my car to prepare myself in case there was an emergency. So anyway, this is my tip for today. Just making sure that you arm yourself and bring supplies with you, toiletries with you, so you have something that you can do when you go see your loved one, especially if it's not, especially the fragrance or the type of, especially with lotions. A lot of times the lotions that they would provide were thin, they're not really creamy, or there's a certain smell to them. I always had hoped that there was no fragrance to some of the stuff, because, sometimes that can be irritating with people who their senses are changing, their taste buds are changing, their sense of smell is changing. So just kind of trying to make sure things are clean and, tight and right. Anyway, I hope that this video was helpful. I hope everything is going well with you and your loved one, and that your caregiving journey is going as smoothly as possible. I know it's difficult out there, and once again, as I said before, it's all about community, asking questions, and getting support from others. So I'm hoping that some of the stuff that I'm sharing in these videos is helpful to you guys and is supportive. So thanks so much for watching, and I'll talk to you soon with some more love and advice.